Today we've got Nicholas Nick on the show with Lead Mining Pros. And Nicholas Nick started his own multiple seven-figure company.
I was a restaurant manager for 13 years. I did the worst jobs for the least amount of money. My boss is an asshole. His boss is an even bigger asshole. If you don't want to be your boss, you got to get out. And so I left. I got really lucky. I applied to a Craigslist ad for a clever investor. I would cold call every day in his community for him. I went live in the Facebook group and I cold called for an hour.
Wow.
In front of everyone for 4 months. And then eventually they started calling me up and going, can I pay you to call from here? Now we're in our biggest year ever. I'm going to net $1 million. I'm a very profitable company.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today we've got Nicholas Nick on the show with Lead Mining Pros. And I've known Nicholas Nick actually for a really long time. We'll dive in maybe a little bit into that story, but I met him through a guy by the name of Cody Sperber. Yeah. For a lot of you watching, you probably know that name, right? The clever investor. And Nicholas Nick, branched out quite a while ago and started his own company, multiple seven-figure company. Really providing value to real estate investors at a really high level. So if you're watching right now and you're a real estate investor, you're a wholesaler, you're a flipper, you do anything in that world, make sure you stay to the end of the video because Nicholas Nick has done something that, very few people have done. So appreciate you being here, bro, and I'm excited to dive into it.
Absolutely, dude. No, my pleasure, man.
Yeah. So for people who don't know you, man, talk to me a little bit about what did your world look like before starting Lead Mining Pros? How did you go from whatever you were doing to what you're doing today?
Yeah. I like this. Actually, on the way over here, your assistant called and asked me a couple questions, and the Uber driver, when I hung up, he was like, damn, bro. And so your question you just asked, what's my journey? It's cool because I've kind of just been living out with this Uber driver because he's like, how did you get there? I'm answering her questions about having $1 million company. He picks my brain right afterward. But my journey's been interesting. And one of my favorite quotes is that Steve Jobs said was, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Right. And I think that sometimes we're going through shit and, they say you can't see the forest through the trees. And we don't realize that we're making our story right now. So mine was unique. I was a restaurant manager for 13 years, wow. Ages 18 to 31. Worked way too hard. I remember my first day at IHOP. I managed IHOPs for 4 years. My very first day, Nick, someone shit on the floor. I was like, wow, talk about an inaugural welcome right there. And I should have known, and I love that story because it really sets the tone. That's exactly what restaurant industry, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And I share that story because it's that kind of fearlessness that kind of got me to where I'm at today. I did the worst jobs for the least amount of money. Restaurant industry, after 13 years, I capped at $65,000 a year, which may be a lot for 15 years ago now, and I'm kind of learning that.
Yep, for sure.
But it may have been a lot for that long ago. But 70 hours a week to make $65,000, I really felt like I had a ceiling. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was exceptional. I was a student, audiobooks every day on the way to and from work. When I got to work, I would use the audiobooks on the employees and see what worked for me. I was really good like that. So my time came to an end at restaurants. I knew the word I used, which might resonate with some people, is I ran out of role models, right? My boss is an asshole. His boss is an even bigger asshole. And I'm like, I don't want to be these people. What am I doing here? And that's the other thing. If you don't want to be your boss, you got to get out. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm sure a lot of your staff looks up to you and where you are and the way you handle situations. If you handle situations poorly, it doesn't matter how rich you are. They don't want anything to do with that. Right. And so I ran out of role models and I knew I didn't want to be anyone that I was around. And so I left. Then I got really lucky. I applied to a Craigslist ad for a clever investor, and they hired me. And I was an event coordinator, which was cool. So restaurants, I was my pitch to them was, well, restaurants are basically an event I throw for 12 hours a day. I can definitely throw your events. Never did it before. They brought me on. I threw an event right away with them. I threw another event, and then I started throwing all of the Clever Labs, and that's where we met initially. Was all of those. I'm throwing Cody's events. Then I started throwing events for Dean Graziosi. I wasn't out of the restaurant industry for 10 months, and I'm working with Dean Graziosi. It really makes me want to cry just saying that, because I knew I was in that industry for too long. I knew I should have gotten out. And now I'm working with like Tony Robbins' right-hand man, and like within 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew I'm on the right path, right?
Yep.
Then, I take it, a lot of people say, how did you found this lead generation business?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, are you an investor or something? No, better.
Mm-hmm.
I was an executive at a real estate education company.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a part of 1,000 investors' journey. If I was just one investor, I'd only have my experience. But because we had 1,000 students or clients, I was able to learn from all of that. And one of the biggest things I've learned is a lot of people, but mainly new people, get lost in the sauce when it comes to setting up lead generation systems,
Mm-hmm.
software, scripts, and their students at the time. That's a whole nother business. Lead generation is another business, separate from real estate investing.
Yep.
Like, it is not the same thing. You have to have your whole own leg. And what I started doing at Clever was I started teaching. I didn't know this back then, but the clients to do their own leads, cold call everybody, call everyone up, do all this stuff. So then fast forward to my time running out at Clever. Mm-hmm. Cody was actually a huge part of my journey. I made a deal with Cody that I would work from home, and I would cold call every day in his community for him. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, I want to be a real estate investor, and I will show them it's possible live every day. So every day I went live in the Facebook group, and I cold called for an hour in front of everyone for 4 months. And that is actually why lead mining is here today. And I didn't realize, and Cody didn't either, nobody did, that was going to be the start of this. But that's branding.
Yeah.
I had 700 people watching me every day going, oh, wow, you're doing such a good job, or, oh, wow, he's just doing it. And then eventually they started calling me up and going, can I pay you to call for me? Mm-hmm. That's how it started. It was my birthday.
Wow.
And a customer called me, Mario Fernando. Thank you, Mario. First customer ever. And he said, man, I see you cold calling. I'm busy. I'm a police officer down here in Miami. Could I pay you to call for me? I was like, hey, pay me, do anything you want to do. I'll do anything for money. How'd you know? And then, so that was actually, the start.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Why do you think you stayed in the restaurant industry for so long? Like, because I think a lot of people watching, there might be people watching, right? I think probably a lot, that they're in a job that they feel how you felt.
Right.
Like, this isn't the end all be all, right? Like, and it's some crappy job at some crappy place. Right. It's just like,
it's draining.
It's just like they're not passionate about it. Like that, and I think a lot of people are in that same situation where they stay for way too long. Yeah. Because it's comfortable, fill in the blank, right? So why do you think you stayed for so long?
Other than I'm a glutton for punishment, right? Whether that's toxic relationships or toxic work relationships, right? Like, one of the things I told the Uber driver on the way over here is, before you get to our level, you're used to something in your life sucking. And we're actually okay with it. We give it a green light. It's okay if something sucks. Yeah, my boss sucks. Well, bosses are supposed to suck. Well, my job sucks. Well, it's supposed to suck. And you could call that eating shit. I kind of call that eating shit. And I think one thing I taught myself is I got really good at eating shit when I was a restaurant employee. And I told myself I love eating shit. And you really kind of have to. And people are probably at home probably like, yeah. And what eating shit is, it's you're doing something you don't want to do, but you've talked yourself into having a good attitude about it. Now, there's a lot of skill in that, right? That's really where the learning comes from. But your goal is to eat so much shit you never have to eat it again, right? And that's when I say that's back to where we're at now, right? It's different. Like, did I hire the wrong person? That's our biggest problem now. I must have hired the wrong person then.
Right. Yeah.
It's not all on me anymore, And so going through that and getting used to that punishment was tough. I actually left because I was actually in physical pain. I didn't realize I was getting stomach ulcers because of stress. And I'll never forget, this customer comes in, and we were like really close, and I'm telling her about it. And she goes, Nick, I don't think your body can handle the stress. I was like, but my mind feels fine. She goes, no, Nick, your mind is powerful. Your mind can handle the stress. Your body cannot. And I thought that was a lot of wisdom, because I didn't feel stressed, right? Or maybe I talked myself out of it, feeling stressed. But my body, and so the day I quit restaurants, and just to share with you guys, because what happens, it's a breaking point. So why did I leave?
Yeah.
Would be a great follow-up question I'll ask myself now. But why did I leave? And I'll tell you, so I always worked out of the city I lived in. I always commuted an hour each way. They finally opened up a restaurant in my city. Finally. No more commute.
Where at?
Lakeland, Florida. Okay. Finally. I show up to work. I'm scheduled 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's 90 hours a week. And no one else was on the schedule. And I'm not that guy. I work with the team works. Okay.
Yeah.
And I pull the GM and I go, what's this? And he goes, oh, well, we've been working 90 hours a week for the last 6 weeks, waiting for you to show up. So now that you're here, you're giving us all the time off and you need to pay your dues. And I'd been with this company 4.5 years. I've been working like crazy the whole time. And I was like, yeah, not paying my dues. Already paid them. Yep. We're not starting that over. Finally in my hometown. So it was like this really visual representation of disrespect. Finally in my hometown, the store finally opened that they hired me for 4 years prior. Get to go there. Doesn't matter if the commute's not there. I'm working more hours. I'm being treated unjustly. I previously had the stomach pain. And I told my boss, I said, fix the schedule or I'm out. We're all working the same. If every other manager is working 90, I'm in for 90.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the only one working 90 and everyone else working 75. The next day I came in, the schedule wasn't fixed and I walked. And that's the other thing I say. When you have a job for that long, you have to walk.
Yeah.
They called me, they offered me more money, they offered me less hours. And that's why you have to walk, because they'll sweeten the golden handcuffs. If you really are good, they won't let you go. And they tried to not let me go. And you have to walk, because if you don't, they'll just sweeten the pot and then you'll be right back in on giving up on your dreams or giving up what's right for you out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful, dude. There's so many people that are probably in that same situation, and I've been there, right? I've been in the role of having a job. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and I remember the last job that I ever worked, and it was a very similar story. So I can relate big time, right? So then talk to me about the evolution. You go, you work for Cody, you work for Dean, you're doing all this crazy stuff in a very short period of time, right? You're learning a ton. I mean, you're learning about real estate investing and like all kinds of stuff
events
that you really never knew anything about, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Prior to that, you didn't know anything about real estate.
So I remember when my first couple of days working at Clever, I was like, months? Yeah. What the fuck do we do here?
You're like, what's wholesaling?
Yeah. Well, and then it's mentorship. Right. I didn't know what mentorship was either.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. Like I joke and say, I was flipping burgers for 30 years. I didn't know what flipping a house meant. Right. And on top of that, like the first call I ever took, this is how I knew I was in the right place. The phone rings. I'm working at Clever. Phone rings. Hello. Thank you for choosing Clever Investor. This is Nicholas. Hey, Nick, man. I don't even know the guy. I just want to tell you that I just closed on my first deal. I made $70,000 on my first deal. I was so shocked. You know what I said to him? I said, did you know I worked 70 hours a week for 52 weeks last year to make $70,000?
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I'm in the right fucking place.
Wow.
It was cool.
So powerful, dude.
Dude, it was so cool. So cool.
So talk to me about that journey then, right? Of learning all that. And then at what point, do you branch off then and start Lead Mining Pros? You talked about that first client, right?
Right.
And how that kind of evolved because you're making cold calls live.
Yeah.
Which is super cool, by the way. Who are you calling? You just calling motivated sellers?
Yeah, I was looking for my own deal. I mean, I was pulling list of absentee owners. I was actually doing my whole business now. I was pulling the list. I was skip tracing it. I was showing the students how to do it. I wasn't a business. So I was showing them all how to do it for themselves. And that's also the perk of done for you. That's actually a good idea. I actually should just show everyone how to do exactly what we do, because the goal isn't how to do it. It's that we do it at a professional level without needing training or anything else. But yeah, I was just called, my first list ever was a list from New York that was called a shock and awe campaign, which you might know what that is. It's whether you just threaten that you're going to take the house from them or something. It's like some urgent, call me now about your property, like the house is on fire thing. And that was the best because it was the worst, right? Shock and awe leads. They're all grumpy as fuck. We sent them some weird threatening letter or that triggered them to call. They don't even have a need to sell. They're just confused, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, entering in that realm, and that's actually how I knew to create lead mining, which is, I think, is somewhat of your question. When I was making these calls in my first 2 months, I sucked. I absolutely sucked. And I had so many leads. And right away, being in restaurants for so many years, I knew if I could suck this bad and do this good, I can scale it.
Yep.
Right? Exactly what you were talking about, we can tell when it's scalable.
Yep.
Right? And if I have no skill and I can do this at this high of a level, I can scale this. And that's when I knew to lean in to cold calling.
Yep.
Because I had no skill. I'd never cold called a day in my life before those videos in that community.
Yeah. So cool, man. So then talk to me about like day one, dude, of you saying, all right, I'm all in. I'm starting my own company now. I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm going all in on this. I'm walking away from Clever. I'm walking away from Dean. I'm walking away from all these big people that I'm helping right now. And I'm going to go all in on my own thing. When was that moment?
Man, I'll never forget this day. So I log online. I'm very competitive. Right? I think actually what I've learned about is I need to compete in order to even win anyway. So I'll create fake competitions with me and my family members or me and friends just so I can accomplish my own goals. I don't want to beat them. I want to beat the laziness out of myself. But so I log into Facebook one day and there's a Filipino advertising their foreign call center in broken English. And at the time, I think I only had 3 people paying me, so I really had nothing. I was working from home for Cody and I had 3 people paying me to make cold calls for them. And I wake up one day and I see hire call center, $3 hour. And I was like, this person can't even type a message and she has the balls to advertise her business and I've never advertised mine. One thing they say about a great business is if you have a great business, you're obligated to share it with the world.
Yeah.
I need to put it in everyone's hands. They're hiring the wrong company right now. The right company is waiting for them. So I make this post and I joke and I always say it was written by the heavens. And it literally started with, hey, guys, I've never done this before, but I'm starting something different. And the thing that made us different, and to this day it's the same, we're all American. So we actually just removed foreign callers off the website yesterday. We're all American cold callers.
Wow.
And
which we're going to dive into in a little while.
Yeah. But that was unique then. And to this day, I'm still the only company. A lot of people might say they have expatriates or American-born callers.
Yeah.
All mine live in the United States. And I made this post. Hey, I have these Americans. We're getting great results, blah, blah, blah. That post had 285 comments on it.
Wow.
And I remember... and back then, Facebook was very plain. This was 7 years ago. People, they didn't say mention. They just start all commenting their email addresses. That's all everyone. I didn't say comment your email below, but they all just told them like, okay, well, I guess I got to do something with everybody's email. So I write up these 13 bullet points. I bet I even have it stored to this day. 13 bullet points, and I sent it out to every person. And I stayed up till 2 a.m. that night. And then the comments kept going. It was going viral, this post. It was inside of a Facebook group. That's why it was going so big. And it was just blowing up. And then the next day I wake up, and that's why I'm telling the story this way too. The next day I wake up and the post was deleted. Okay? Because it was in a group.
Yeah, by the moderator.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't own the group.
Yep.
It wasn't my Facebook page. Other people can delete it. So I wake up and it's deleted. And I'm like, hey, this is weird. So I called the owner of the group. And he goes, yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. He goes, well, why'd you delete it? He goes, well, you're lucky I didn't delete it yesterday, but I was on a boat with my family all day. And I was like, oh, shit. And I said, well, it's good. I already emailed all 290 people. But if you think of that story, if I would have said, it was Sunday on that day. That's why he was on the boat. I could have said, I'll get to this post tomorrow.
Yeah, you would have lost every email.
Dude, I would still be working at Clever Investor today.
Wow.
If I didn't seize the day, and that's why I wanted to tell the story like that. The next day is now Monday. The email prompted 20 sales calls. I closed 10 of them, and I literally put in my notice that same exact day.
Wow.
with Cody.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I probably quit too soon, right? I didn't,
Yeah.
but like,
In retrospect, yeah.
I should have had a little bit more
Yeah.
stable footing, but I'm a burn the boats kind of guy, and I could tell that this was working. And then that was when this blew up. And just so you know, from that day on, our first 6 months, we did $360,000 in sales. Our first 3 months, I didn't even have a website. I did $150,000 in sales just using web forms for people that were interested. And my company, from that day on, we've never done less than $7,000 in a single week from that day that post was made.
Wow.
And now we average $35,000 a week in sales.
That's awesome, dude.
Crazy.
Yeah. That day, right, when you have 3 clients and you send out 290 emails, right? What were you offering then? What was the offering? Like you said, you got 20 calls, you closed 10. What did you close them on?
That's such a good question. This is going way back. So the email I sent them was like 13 bullet points of what we do, right? We'll pull the list, we'll skip trace it, we'll call it. We call everyone up to 3 times if they don't answer. We ask these qualifying questions. We'll send the leads over to you at the end of the day. We track your KPIs, all that stuff. So that's what the email was. What I was offering, and this is I only 500 dials a week.
Yeah.
So I'm a career employee. I've been getting paid weekly my whole life. I'll be honest with you. When I was cold calling for real estate during those 3 months, I had 3 properties under contract. All 3 people woke up one day and told me to go fuck myself. And I told myself, fuck real estate. I cannot live off of the unstable means. Again, I'm a career employee. If I was a big commission sales guy, I'd probably be more comfortable with losing big deals.
Yeah.
My whole life I'd been salaried with restaurants or salaried with this. So I'm thinking at home and I'm like, okay, so I don't want people to take my money away from me. I don't want someone to wake up and change their mind and I just lost $35,000, right? So I was like, I need to get paid weekly. So I was like, I'll do 500 dials a week. So our only product for like those 6 months, other than list pulling and skip tracing, the only cold calling product was 500 dials per week.
Wow.
That was it.
American dialers, because you weren't doing it all for all 10, were you at that point? Like you weren't the one cold calling anymore.
I was, so I cold called until I cried in front of the computer because I had too much work to do.
For sure.
Like literally.
And then you had to hire somebody.
Right. What a beautiful reason to cry. But
Sure.
but you're exactly right. And so I think I probably called on like the first 5 clients and then I had a breakdown. Then I made a post and then I trained like 8 people in one meeting. 3 of those people stayed with me for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
And they became my managers.
All American?
All American.
Okay.
Always.
And what type of demographic at that point? And I'm sure it's changed and we'll dive into the nitty gritty of it. But like at that point, are we talking about like a stay-at-home mom type of demographic? Are we talking about?
The first crew was mostly men.
Okay.
And you'd be surprised the people that come out of the woodwork when you offer $13 to $15 an hour work from home to cold call. One guy was a millionaire entrepreneur looking to free up some time and learn how to do real estate investing. Another guy was an investor who was struggling and just trying to make some. Struggling investors are the best employees of mine.
Yeah.
They come in, I give them solid pay. Well, not solid, but consistent pay. And they're perfecting their craft on my dime.
Sure.
And they're great cold callers. So I love it. So anyone's looking for work, I got you. But seriously, again, I hire Americans. So anyone watching, I am hiring always.
And we're going to put all the links down below too. Yeah. Use code Zaback, by the way.
Yes, sir. But mostly men. They did a great job. I did have a couple of women. To this day, I am mostly women.
Okay.
And that's not, I don't seek out a demographic. Like,
sure.
I make a post. I'm hiring American cold callers, work from home, no sales, follow the script, and I offer a $50 bonus every week if you work at least 25 hours a week. Okay. So the reason why that exists is I treat my employees like Uber drivers. You create the schedule. You decide when you want to work. I'm not saying, hey, you're 9 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm not that guy. That's a whole nother layer of management I'm not messing with. I'm more like Uber. Uber doesn't schedule their drivers. I don't schedule my callers. Right? If you don't show up for several weeks, you might not. I won't. No one gets fired from that same regard. People just phase themselves out.
Yep.
Naturals call more. Unnaturals quit working. Right. So it's a kind of a cool system that saves itself. But now mostly women, and it's because they stick around. Women are more consistent. Men, and no knock to them, but they're always looking for like the next big thing or the next thing that changed their life. And to this day, my average employee's been with me for 5 years.
Wow.
At the moment.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So they enjoy what they do, you know, 100%, right? For anybody who doesn't know, talk to me about, you know, like somebody might be watching, right? And they're like, what's skip tracing? What's data? Like, let's just go there real quick.
Absolutely.
And just talk about like, what do you mean when you say that?
Okay, gotcha. I'll do a couple of things. I'll cover everything that we offer.
Cool.
And then through that, I'll define some stuff too. So what we offer is I can pull lists in any market in America.
Okay. And when you say a list, what do you mean?
A list is like a series of records based off of a demographic that you're looking for. So let's say, hey, Nick, I want homes in Paradise Valley that are valued at 1 to 3 million. And then I could pull every homeowner in Paradise Valley that owns a home at that value.
Okay.
So we can get our target down. That's our targeted prospects would be a list, right? Then we have our list. After we pull that list, and we can take all criteria: equity amounts, property value range, property type, pre-foreclosure, multifamily, commercial, mobile home, land. We can do all of them. And then you can give us property values, equity amounts, and then everything else. Then after that, we skip trace it. I always say skip trace is the art of finding an accurate phone number. Okay. So I need a name and an address. And with those two things, I can get a phone number. Our phone numbers, because I have a call center, I have a proven accuracy of over 85%, which is amazing. So we get the right person on the phone 85% of the time or more. Then what we do is we put American callers on the phone. They call everyone up to 3 times if they don't answer. If they do answer, we ask them if they own the property, if they've ever considered selling. And that's important. Have you ever considered selling? When you're talking to a lead, you want to cast the widest net to catch a yes. Right? I call it cracking the nut open. You know, however we can crack open that nut. Let's not, well, have you been thinking about selling in the last week?
Right.
Yeah. We're just narrowing it down. We're trying to get a no with questions like that. Have you ever considered selling? Then if they say yes, we ask 12 qualifying questions. 12. Yeah.
Wow.
All about the property. I can rattle those off real quick if you want.
Rattle them off. Yeah,
you got it. Any general repairs needed? How old's the roof? When was the last time it was remodeled? Are there any tenants in the property? Is there a mortgage on the property? If so, how much is left on the mortgage? What's your timeline to sell? How much do you want to sell for? Would you be open to taking that total amount in monthly payments? It's a very sneaky owner finance question. Ron LeGrand gave us that question. He's like, that's how I would ask that. Is there a better phone number for you? Is there a good email address for you? When's the best time for my partner to follow back up with you? And then we say, thank you so much for your time. My partner, Austin, will give you a call back in the next 24 hours. And they're probably going to want to come out and see the house.
Yeah.
And we do that we found that to be very important, that we call ourselves your partner, right? As soon as we show up like an employee, they want to get us fired. Right? Who's your boss?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them you were disrespectful. Like the whole energy shifts. No, we are owners. So another little tip, if you guys have your own call centers, I'm calling on behalf of, doesn't work. I'm calling for my boss, doesn't work. They have to feel, there has to be some level of authority. No one wants to think a peon's calling them.
Authority, but at the same time, you're not the final decision maker.
That's right. That's exactly. Yeah, we're in this cool gray area. Our partner's got that. Anything else, talk to the partner. You know?
Love it.
And then after we call everyone, we text message everybody too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and our texting is really good.
Even if you have a good conversation with them, it's like a follow-up text.
I don't even care. No,
really?
Yeah, no, it's another blind, have you ever considered selling for?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, everything's done to everyone.
Yeah.
Again, you know, as a lead generator, and you might be able to, you hire us, no stone unturned. Nick beat the shit out of that list. And that's how I want you. I don't want you being awake at night going, God, could he have? No,
Hold
we did
another
it.
lead out of there? Yeah.
Right, we did it. I remember we had one client, I swear to you, we had 98 leads. And then he's disappointed. He meets with me and he goes, Nick, we got 98 leads, but you know, none of them are closing. He goes, I think you guys are missing something. And I said, no offense, but with 98 leads, I don't think we missed a thing.
Yeah.
I said, I think you're missing something. I said, if I was to guess, you might be prejudging the lead. You're telling yourself you know what they're thinking. You're going, I don't have to call that guy. Look, he said this, he said that. You know, because I can tell. Like, first of all, our rule of thumb is if you don't have a contract and 20 leads, you're doing something wrong.
For sure.
Period.
Yep.
You know, our average client closes a deal in 12 to 20. That's why I say, look, if you're at 20, you miss something. It's not a jab. I'm not jabbing at you. But go back to the drawing board. And I often relate the pursuit of leads to being a detective, right? Like we've seen the movies where they're hunting serial killers and the faces are on the walls and the strings are nailed in. And that's what we need to do. What clues did you miss? Or what clues did you over perceive and talk yourself out of the lead, right? Out of even calling them in the first place.
Yeah, totally. What is your thought? Like, what would you say to somebody watching right now that's like, yeah, Nick, like, but cold calling doesn't work anymore? Like, what would you say to that guy?
So I would say it definitely depends on your market.
Okay.
There are markets I would not, well, first of all, there's a big difference between paying me to do it and doing it yourself. If you've got the time, you do it yourself, you can invest more time in your market. We are a premium service. For example, I don't recommend cold calling in Phoenix.
Yep.
I don't recommend cold calling in Southern California. I don't recommend cold calling in Dallas. I don't recommend calling in Houston, Atlanta, or Miami, or Orlando. But those are the only markets I don't recommend cold calling in.
Yep.
Okay.
And why?
Because what we don't realize is, well, simply put, the more their phone rings by anybody else, the less the chance you can have to get it. And I used to live in Phoenix. And even when I lived here, everyone fucking calls you.
Everybody.
The windshield repair guy calls you.
Yeah.
AT&T's fucking calling you.
Yep.
If Starbucks had your phone number, they'd be calling you too, asking you why you like Phoenix wants your money so bad. It's not they do. These metro areas you're being marketed to by life insurance, health insurance, everything.
Yep.
It's not just you have a lot more competition in real estate, A.
Yep.
B, you have competition on the phone, period. So the more they're being bombarded, the more they're being trained by other companies to stop answering their phone.
Got it.
And then I can tell you as a fact, Jack, if real estate investors are pulling lists and cold calling them, so is life insurance and AT&T, and they're going for the top metro. So that's my main reasoning.
Makes sense.
Why not to do it?
For sure. Would you also say that another reason, because I've thought about this before, and it's not to be like, it's not to be like judgy or anything, right? But like when you look at demographics, and you look at the people that live in these, $4, $5, $6, $7, $800,000 homes, these people are slightly more savvy than maybe, let's just say, somebody in Indianapolis living in a $110,000 home. It's just the truth most of the time, right? It doesn't mean it's always the truth.
Yeah.
Right. It can obviously not be the case, but on average, I've seen, somebody living in California in $1 million home, they're probably a little bit smarter. They're a little savvier. They know people.
Right.
They kind of know the game, maybe.
Right.
As opposed to somebody in the middle of nowhere, or like in a market like Indianapolis and North Carolina or somewhere like that, where it's just the environment's different, right? Like they've been living in a different environment for their whole life.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're just going to be. You can typically have a better conversation with that person on the phone. Yeah. Right? In my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're talking and you're relating to like suburban.
Yeah.
If you will. And that's our sweet spot. Right? Suburban and rural. I always say if you're a wholesaler and you hear someone say they invest in a city you've never heard of, your ear should perk up.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of it, I mean, a lot of people haven't either. And that's where the greatest leads come from. And to your point, resources is a big deal. Resource and general knowledge, right? So when we think about the smaller towns where I was flipping burgers in, right, I didn't even know real estate was a thing. And that's what happens in those smaller towns. The average collective intellectual person doesn't have those resources at their fingertips.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's something about living in San Diego. Everyone knows what their house is. That's the other part. Everyone knows what their house is worth when you live in an area that's super affluent. When you're in this little crappier area, like, yeah, I've just been living here 30 years. I don't know. The whole family grew up here. Like they're not as savvy. And that doesn't mean that we take advantage or not take advantage, but that our skills need to freshen up, right? We need to be able to go toe to toe. And that's the other part I tell people is you can cold call in Phoenix and I bet you can and do, but is your budget appropriate?
Sure.
You know, people say, well, I want to start in Miami. And so I looked it up. Miami is the 5th richest city in the world, not America.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. But it makes sense. All those damn big ass yachts I saw last time I was there. They're freaking
For sure.
huge, dude.
For sure.
You know? But I'm looking at this and I'm realizing it. And I said, well, that means you're competing with the fifth richest. And we have to do the math.
Yep.
If it's the fifth richest city in the world, then it's also the fifth richest real estate investment market, which
Sure.
means my competition can afford to put $50,000 a month. There's the other thing I tell people. Why does this market suck to cold call in? Well,
You don't have a big enough budget.
yeah, that's right. If your competitor's dumping 50,000, same thing as PPC is the best way to think of it.
Yep.
Because Google manages the PPC cost
Sure.
based off of demand. There's no cold calling PPC cost.
Yep.
But if they're being pounded by, if someone's putting $50,000 into that market and then another person and four other people are putting $50,000 in the market, your $500 a month budget,
It's nothing.
it's nothing,
Yeah.
right? And it's just the sheer numbers of it. And that's what I tell people. Why? I said, if you just started playing basketball, would you want to play against Michael Jordan? No. Then why are you doing that with your real estate investing dollars? Right? And just to like remind them, it's like, hey, start in the junior leagues,
Yeah.
right? In the little crappy cities outside of it. And then my biggest rebuttal there is, well, what if there's no buyers out there? Oh, what if there's no investors? And I say, did you know that every place that is for rent is owned by an investor?
Yeah.
So are you telling me in that little town, there's no places for rent? And they're like, oh, like, you know, it's like little things like that. And that's why I think the biggest thing is our self-limiting beliefs, what we tell ourselves. People say, oh, well, I heard Phoenix is the best place to get a deal. And I say, you're right. If you have a deal, Phoenix is the best place to be. If you're looking for a lead,
Yeah.
it is not the best place to be.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a saying I always tell people, I say that the easier it is to get the deal, right? The harder it'll be to sell on the back end typically. And then the harder it is to get the deal on the front end, the easier it'll be to sell on the back end.
And that's exactly
right?
and that's the other part. So I have a client hire me and his results suck. And I go, well, where is this? And he goes, oh, this isn't the hottest zip code in Kansas City. I'm like, oh, well, then the results are good again.
Yeah, for sure.
4 leads in the middle of nowhere. That's horrible. 4 leads in the hottest zip code in the hottest city in Kansas.
Yep.
Now we're actually talking. And and it's funny. I also do this too. I remember one time someone only had 5 leads and I was like, it's not really that good. And I get done talking. He goes, did I tell you I closed a deal? And I was like, I should lead with,
Yeah.
how did the leads go
Right.
before because I'm only looking at the numbers.
Sure.
So I'm only, but it's like, I love stories like that because to your point is when you do get less, you can do more with it if
Yeah.
you are in one of those hot markets.
Agreed, dude.
Because
Yeah.
someone will buy it. Like if you're in Dallas, you get a property under contract, it's selling.
For
Like,
sure.
That's
Especially if you get it the
question.
right price.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me about so for people who are watching that are like, dude, like I could go hire people in the Philippines to cold call for me for a fraction of the cost. Like, why not just do that? Right. Like, I want to know the difference between, in your opinion, because you see it, dude. Like I've seen Egyptian cold callers. I've seen Filipino cold callers. I've seen, dude, everything you could possibly imagine out there. Pakistan, I think, is one of them I've seen lately. Right. How much, what's the main difference that you see when somebody, spends a little bit more money to hire this American cold caller with no accent,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera?
Well, and there's a couple long answers floating around my head, and I'll try to shorten them up. The first thing is the way that I price my pricing out is you have no overhead. And I think what people forget, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to sign up for PropStream, $120 a month. Ching. I'm going to get Badge Leads Dialer, $150 a month. Ching. Oh, I'm gonna get their skip tracing deal, 15 cents a skip trace.
Yep.
10,000 records, $1,500. Chink. Okay, so now we haven't even picked up the fucking phone yet. We got 1,500 plus 150 plus 120. We haven't even picked up the phone yet. Then you're gonna put this $2,000 investment a month in the hands of someone who really may not even speak English. Now, there's a big difference between speaking English and understanding it. Okay. So yeah, they might be able to read the words on the script. Yeah, they can do that. But do they know what's being said to them? And with that disconnect, like how much is that lead really worth to you? So I think that putting the foreign person in, I get it. And that's why I'm not trying to demonize it. but what are we really doing?
Yeah.
Right? We're setting up this multi-million-dollar system. I can guarantee you, AT&T may have foreign people answer the phone now. When they fucking started 20 years ago, they did not.
Yeah.
And they can only do it now because they're 20 years in business and they already know everything to say. And so it's like, you might be like, well, this big corporation did it. Every time I called them. And yeah. And by the way, how frustrated do you get when you call and it is a Filipino? And you can tell they really don't know the words you're saying. They may say, that's the other thing I've learned about foreign people. When they say the word yes in perfect English, you think they understand.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wait, hold on. 2 weeks later, hold on. Have you just been saying yes, sir? And you have no fucking idea? Well, you haven't changed
Yeah.
You don't even know. So one is the large investment up front. And then don't forget, that's standing overhead. So let me flip another coin on you. You put all that there. You do get the $3 an hour VA. You work with them every day for 3 months to get them good.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing role play.
Right.
Yep.
You put all this time in. Then one day you wake up, you're like, hey, anyone see Joey log in today?
Right.
Anyone hear from Joey? He disappears every once in a while. We'll see. And next day, oh, no, well, guess what? You just lost 3 months. And that's the other part that people miss. Like my average employee has been with me for 5.5 years. So it's huge what happens. And even if they weren't, I have great systems for a new person to come in and stuff where they can pick it right up. But we miss out on that time. And then as soon as they quit, and this happens to me all the time, clients hire me. I just got a message yesterday. A guy made $211,000 on one of our deals, on $1,000 purchase.
Wow.
And what was I saying right before that?
I mean, you're talking about like clients and the fact that this guy just calls you, right? I mean,
yeah, thank you. People come in, they make a lot of money with us. And the first thing they think is, well, if I made $100,000 off of this purchase, I'm just going to use that $100,000 and build my own team.
Right. Everybody. Yep.
This is honestly why I don't like house wholesalers that much, is because they're obsessed with bringing everything in house. And that is so stupid. I honestly think that is so stupid. And it's like, and I get it, but you're just going to go through a lot of pain and then still pay someone else to do it anyways. And so this guy hires me, makes a lot of money. He called me. I had an interview with him about this. It's on my YouTube channel. Comes back and he goes, Nick, I tried to do it myself. I was $5,000 in, 6 months in, I had 10 leads.
Yeah.
He's like, that's it. He goes, I couldn't believe how much time and energy. He's like, I woke up one day. I was like, get Nick back on the phone. We're not doing this anymore. And that's what happens. And it snares us. Like it snares our bandwidth. We start closing less deals because we're training $3 an hour VAs. And, the whole thing starts to implode on us. So that's one. So the money, the investment. And then the third piece I'll touch on is scams are way too prevalent in America right now. Okay, we're getting AI scams, Filipino scams. We're getting messaged by people in Africa. I get all the time. I had a guy send me a picture of his busted ass shoes. Here's my shoes. Could I get $50 to get new shoes? And my point is, it comes at us from every angle as Americans. So when we pick up the phone and we hear that accent, we are beginning to associate that with scam.
Yeah.
And not that they're scamming us, but I think social media is putting scams more in our viewpoint, so we're on higher alert. So the final point that I'll make, other than money and longevity, are they going to quit on you one day after all that effort, is what rapport loss are you how many leads are you losing? Because they're going, yeah, right, yeah, you're going to buy this house, you're going to buy this $1 million house. I don't think so. Right. And so I think that's the third part about foreign callers.
I agree, dude. I agree 100%. I think we're totally being trained for that. And I completely agree. And it's only going to get worse, right? Yeah. Like it's not going to get better.
Right.
Because
people are just smarter.
People are just going to keep doing it. And Americans are getting smart, right? Like we understand, we get it, I mean, I don't even answer my phone really anymore.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, like once in a blue moon, I'll answer because I just have a gut feeling that like
this is a real number.
It's important, right?
Yeah.
But dude, I'm real quick to hang up, bro.
Yeah.
Like I'll give somebody like 3 seconds to like hear their tonality and like
right.
hear the first couple words out of their mouth, and I'm immediately making a decision. I'm either
not a
hanging up
clue.
on your ass or I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, and dude, I
100%.
would argue that 9 times out of 10, I'm hanging up.
Yeah, 100%. And
You
that's
know?
the thing about the American sounding good on the phone and sounding American. You can tell, and that's why people, they say it's not that, oh, they're in America. It's that they live in America. I don't even care if they're Filipino and they live in America.
Yeah.
Go to an American bar. That's a different language communication style, right? So it's not so much that they can't be foreign, right? But if they have to understand the culture, they have to understand the words. And our Americans, I call them like Olympians.
Yeah.
You know, they adapt, they overcome. I track all the stats. So I just mentioned that 2 days ago, I just made a post. I just terminated my foreign cold calling division.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Totally done. And I was checking the stats. And first of all, no one's buying it. Everyone's buying American. That's number one. And the rare people that do buy it, even though I charge half as much for the foreign callers as I do for American, I analyze the cost per lead. They're paying 6 times more on the cost per lead because the foreign person isn't as
burning
effective.
through data.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just let everyone know, it didn't used to be like that. Our foreign callers used to be as good as the Americans statistically. And I used to push, if you see old videos of mine, I'm like foreign, because I'm always pushing what gets my clients the most value because then they come back for more. And so everything we've been talking about has been proven by the statistics that I've seen. And when I logged in yesterday and I realized that even having foreign callers on my website is just sidetracking my customers into making a poor decision. I was like, why even have that? There should be no poor decisions on my website.
Be known for American callers.
That's right.
Yeah. Like that becomes your new brand.
Because sometimes people see the price and they think, well, I'll save $200, but you won't.
And then they get in their own head and then maybe they don't buy it all.
Right.
Because they overthink it.
Yeah. Too many choices. So I'm like, you know what? And I don't want, like they said, there should be no bad decisions on my website. Everything should be. And the real truth is, if you're in a saturated market and you're thinking of foreign, just blow the fuck up with text.
Yeah.
That's my real, and that's the other point. Text is so good right now.
What do you think about text though when it comes to like the carriers and all that? Like how do people get around that? Because I mean, we used to murder text, right? And now we really don't even do it anymore, dude.
So I'm blessed. There's a couple things. My grandfather was literally a priest.
Okay.
And I do not have to put a reply stop to opt out message on my text messages. I can put addresses in my text messages. So there's a lot of things that I'm able to do with texting that other companies can't do anymore. So to your point, with the restrictions, I do believe texting's dead. So it's like, hey, if you have to put reply stop to opt out, you might as well be saying, I'm a robot. Please don't sell me. As soon as anyone sees reply stop to opt out, they're like, fuck you. You put no effort into this, right? I know you loaded me up into a software and you clicked a button. My software doesn't have reply stop to opt out requirements. And I think that's because I'm grandfathered in, whether it's from my actual grandfather or I have been A2P10 DLC registered for 3 years.
Got it.
So years ago, I had a developer build me out a custom texting platform and he made me do the A2P years ago. And I was very annoyed with it because no one had to do it yet. But now I'm realizing he had me do it so long ago. I get like 100, I don't want to say 100% deliverability. Deliverability is not an issue with us. Our response rate is anywhere from 5 to 15%. That's response rate.
Wow.
And then our leads are also through the roof. Our average texting campaign is getting a lead right now in every 80 to 150 text messages sent.
Wow.
And I sell 500 for $82.
Wow.
Okay. So it's like, it's really crazy. So our texting is blowing up. I have several customers doing like $25,000 a month with us. And I think it's because no reply stop to opt out. And ours is also very manual. So like I have an employee going in, loading up the list, clicking send. I then have employees going in, reading responses and typing responses. So I don't have like this like big AI machine, but I think that also could be benefiting me, right? I'm not spamming as hard the servers and stuff like that. So texting with us has been a saving grace. I always say, I don't know how long this is going to go on for. I don't know if regulations, texting is a lot like the interest rates. Are they going to keep going up? Are they going to start going down? So I don't know if regulations are going to get crazier or worse. I do tell people, get it while it's hot.
Yeah.
You know, at least from us, you know.
It's all you can do.
Right.
Right. You can't predict the future.
That's right.
You know, and you're going to adapt.
Yeah.
And you're
right.
going to pivot and be nimble and when, just like you did with foreign to going all American, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, hey, as times change, you're going to change.
Yeah, we're
right?
going to have to figure this out. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no question about it. How difficult, as an entrepreneur running the type of company that you run, like for me, right? Between all my companies, I probably have 250 people, right?
That's crazy.
And hiring is something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, right? They struggle to find good talent. They struggle to interview them the right way, to do maybe multiple interviews, to do a disc test with them, whatever, right? Like you see entrepreneurs that go through the pain and agony of building companies and hiring and all this crap. How have you found success in hiring, and like, what does that look like for you? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So like when I was a restaurant manager, that's really what taught me everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So restaurants are very hands-on, and I was always in charge of training at every restaurant I was in because I was just really good at it. So when the person got in, I created a training schedule for them. Day 1, orientation. Day 2, position. Day 3, when we would test and all this other stuff. So what I call that now is I call that the gauntlet. What gauntlet do you put your people through?
Okay.
So like for my cold callers, I'll give you an example. First of all, everyone's hired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's my motto. I'm like that scene from Dangerous Minds. Michelle Pfeiffer, you all get an A to start, right? You're all hired. Now what? Now I need you to watch my cold calling course. It's completely free. Okay. After you watch the cold calling course, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I do, my gauntlet is their eagerness. Watch the cold calling course, let me know. If they never let me know, they're fired.
Yep. Right.
Right? They have to, I'm not going to say, hey, did you finish that?
Sure.
Nope, because I need you to be a self-starter.
Mm-hmm.
Says I told you earlier, you make your own schedule.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be reminding you to clock in the same way I'm not going to be reminding you to finish these steps. So first thing is cold calling course. Second thing is typing test. I have to make sure they can type a certain speed. If they can't type fast enough, they can't take notes during the call. If they can't take notes during the call, we might have inaccurate notes, right? So that's number 2. Take this typing test. Let me know what your score is. They never reply. They lost the opportunity.
Got
right?
it.
Then the next thing I've learned is I need 5 hires to get one good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, get to 5.
Yep.
Just like in your lead gen, right? Hey, it takes 20 leads to close a deal. Well, I don't want to talk about 5 fucking leads.
Yep.
Get to 20 leads, and then we'll talk about the deal, right? Like we're talking too early. So, so then that's the next part. Then I put them in a one-on-one meeting with my training coordinator, and he clocks them in, walks in the software, and then does 3 hours of live calls with them.
Yeah.
Is basically what he does. And then by that, if they're still on board, normally they're good.
Cool.
Okay, because that's quite a gauntlet, for them to go through. That's how I hire my cold callers, and then I have my manager work with them for 30 minutes a day, and then eventually just go to bi-weekly check-ins.
Yep.
Then just to take that system a little bit further, just so everyone knows, in order for my cold call, I don't just like hire people off of the street.
Mm-hmm.
In order for my cold callers to work for me, they have to produce a minimum amount of leads per hour.
Got it.
Every cold caller must produce at least 1 lead per 2 hours of work, or they cannot work here.
Mm-hmm.
Then every week we track everyone's leads per hours, and whoever the bottom 3 are, they get one-on-one coaching.
Mm.
If the bottom 3's numbers don't improve over 3 weeks, they don't work for me anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so it's like I have this like amazing cyclical system where, and I don't really ever have to fire people. Normally people always change, or my trainer's great, so he does an amazing job getting everyone up to par, helping them fix their issues. We're actually at our highest performance ever right now.
Wow.
Nationwide, we're averaging 0.8 leads per hour.
Wow.
Okay, and an hour of calling is about 150 dials. So we're averaging 1 lead right now nationwide in about 189 dials.
Wow.
Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But it's because of all these systems I'm laying out. It's not just like a fluke. I didn't just hire the right person, right? So that's how I hire cold callers. So the next thing would be my managers.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm doing with managers is I'm making them come over my house for 3 months. I don't have a building, right?
Yep.
But I'm making them come over my house for 3 months, right? And that's for a couple. I got to gauge you out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, your life could be crazy. You could be a great employee on Zoom, but when you hang out, your wife is fighting, your kids are fighting, you're all distracted.
Yep.
You got to work with these people.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're way too you're here 40 hours, but you're handling personal shit 20 hours. I need somebody working for 40, and it's important for us to know that. So with leadership, I bring them into my home. If most of them I try to hire local, but if I didn't, I would just fly them in, get them a hotel, tell them to show up every day for 2 to 3 months. And then let's do that. And that's really That's not training as much as me gauging or influencing, right? Some people come in, they're negative about their last job. That's okay. If I give you some advice and you're positive, we're great. If I give you some advice and you're negative and then you're still negative, then you're still negative, okay, hey, I'm going to fly you back home.
Yeah.
Right? So I kind of put people, my theory is to put people through a gauntlet, a gauntlet of experiences and not to let your finger off the pulse. So the thing is, people want to get paid to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more money you make, like you and me, the more they think they could come, more some people think they could come and work for us and get paid to do nothing because they want to be like, yeah, well, he's got it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know Nick makes enough money for me to work 20 hours and get paid for 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do make enough money to do that, but I don't
Doesn't
want
mean you're going to. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I can afford to lose money. You're right, but I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think another part is like, weeding out the people who, like, I want someone to take advantage of me, but I need to be taking advantage of them.
Right.
And that's by getting the results in my business that I'm looking for. Feel free. Hey, if you can get me 40 hours of results in 20 hours, I'm good. But you know what? When your shit starts breaking and then I start digging into what you're doing and now I found out, like, you can work 20 hours and run a perfect department is what I'm trying to say. And I will pay you for 40.
Sure.
But if you're working 20 hours and everything's crashing down around you and I have to do your job and mine, then then it's like not a good fit. So I'm not like super micromanagerial, but we got to earn that time gap.
100%.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. What would you say to somebody watching right now and they're trying to decide between like they want to get into wholesaling, right? And they want to, make a lot of money, of course, right? And do all that. And let's just say they have a budget, and their budget's not a ton of money, but they've got a little bit of money to play with. They want to go to the direct to seller route because there's obviously different ways you can get into wholesaling, right? And they're looking at like pay-per-click and like PPL and all that. And then they're looking at like cold calling and texting, right? Like what, in your opinion, when you look at that type of person, what do you typically say, hey, you should start here or there?
So here's what I tell everybody. Cost per lead is everything in the beginning. Why is that? Well, each lead you get is experience. So a lot of coaching companies use me as like their primary source because a lot of people don't like direct mail.
Yep.
And I honestly think new people should stay away from direct mail and PPC. And it's for the simple fact that those leads are too expensive to learn on. Period. Period. Direct mail leads, $300 to $1,000 each. Right? If you're brand new, you can't afford to spend $300 to learn a lesson. You with me? That's too much.
Yeah.
I'm brand new. I can't. So what I tell people is cold calling and texting is going to get you your lowest cost per lead. Now, arguably, they might be harder leads to close, but again, that just serves you again. If you start learning to close cheaper, uglier leads, what happens? You master the calling and texting. Then what happens when you go to direct mail and PPC?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everything feels like a cakewalk. These are wow, this is awesome. Oh, I don't mind spending $300 per lead because I'm not spending all this time on the phone with them anymore. So my advice to everyone is calling and texting is the way to go. And it's immediate. PPC, I bet we have to get ramped up. We have to get our account set up. We have to get our credit card attached. We have to get auto pay. We have to figure out our audience. We have to figure out our message, right? All that. Direct mail. You pay the post office, you pay the direct mail company. It'll be out in 3 weeks, right? You hire me today, we're literally starting on Monday.
Wow.
And you're getting a lead the same day it's generated from us that day. And so like if you are new, that's the cool thing. If you're new, we're going to help you with your learning curve. If you're already a pro, you're going to fucking love it even mo. If you're already a pro, you're going to love it even more. And the reason why is because a pro can respect all the work that we're doing. A lot of my pro clients now go, look, bro, I've done outbound. I managed it myself. I can't believe you're doing it at this price. This is crazy. Like we're in. Like they can really respect it. The new person doesn't know the value proposition that we're really offering yet because they haven't gone through the pain. And that's why I just advise them we're on a cost per lead game.
Yeah.
And two things I tell all my clients is every lead's worth 2 to 5 minutes of your time. Don't you ever read fucking notes and talk yourself out of a lead. That's the dumbest thing you could do, right? Call them. If they're an asshole, hang up on them.
Yeah.
If they're not an asshole, never hang up on them. talk to them until they go to bed that night, right? Because you're going to get something out of it. And then the other thing I tell everyone's worth 2 to 5 minutes, and then always make sure you just have that great attitude. You know, my number one question now is, Nick, what ninja advice do you have for me? And I bring up leads just like a relationship. And if you're dating someone and you tell yourself you hate something about them, I hate this about them, I hate this about them, I hate this about them. Every time you see that person, that relationship's going to be worse. Guaranteed, whether it's your boss or your girlfriend or your lover or your parent or whoever. And so I call that negative self-talk. And it's okay. I understand. We're going to read a lead and go, that sucks. I understand, but let's not rattle on about it, right? If you find yourself constantly trash talking leads, stop. And so that's the other big piece of advice I give. And I go, give yourself a positive attitude, call the lead, see how it goes. Because what they'll do is they'll talk themselves, and I could see it in my client's face. I meet with all my clients weekly, one-on-one. If they book the call, it's a free call every week they get invited to. I can tell, hey, we got 60 leads. Yeah, how'd those go? Oh, I didn't call them yet. Wow, 60 leads. Yeah. And then they'll message me and they'll be like, well, what about the leads we didn't get? Are we going to call them again? I'm like, hey, could you focus on the things? That's the other thing is like people, they want to be distracted by maybe the negative side of things, right? And it's like, no, focus on the ones we gave you. Focus on having a good attitude. Clearly you told yourself, for some reason, you told yourself you didn't have to call these 60 leads. And whatever that reason is, you cannot tell yourself that again on your next campaign. You're never going to pay me again. If you never call these leads, you're never paying me again. So we have a mutual interest to get you on the phone with them.
They have to make money.
Right.
You want them to make money. 100%.
I tell my clients all the time, literally there's no one that wants you to be more successful other than you than me.
100%.
Like I'm right here with, because I'm also no contracts, no commitments, which we haven't covered that either. But everything we do is a single one-off service.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's unheard of in the industry.
Well, really. That's why people love me too.
Yeah.
Is one of my big competitors right now is Land Callers. I'll give them a plug because please call that sales guy. They charge $3,300 a month for foreign cold callers. And they will call 10,000 records over 3 months. I charge $3,600 for 10,000 American dials. This guy,
wow, how
profitable is that company? Where this guy is charging $3,300 per month. And I had a guy call me and he goes, and it's a 3-month contract. And then they charge you, and he goes, then after telling me it's $9,900, he says there's a $150 setup fee. I'm like, you couldn't have just worked that into the $10,000.
Right.
like, is it really worth it? And, you know, it's interesting because I don't know what any of my competitors do because I'm focused on what I'm doing. But, you know, that no contracts and the reasonable pricing. And like I mentioned, if you even just add up the overhead you would accumulate before anyone even picks up the phone, I swear my price is equal to the sole cost of the overhead alone before we even put training or systems or people in place.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. As an entrepreneur, you know, and then a couple more questions and we'll wrap. But, you know, what have you found to be the most difficult or challenging thing in scaling to a 7-figure company?
You know, yeah, we're almost there right now, right? Like, you know, some guy asked me, he goes, why don't you scale lead mining? Well, first, we're up 50% this year over last year. That is considered scale. So anything 35% or greater is mathematically scaling.
Yep.
And the other response I made to him, I said, first of all, we are scaling. Second of all, things are currently breaking at the perfect pace. So what I would say is so many people want to scale, scale, scale. I would let nature take its course a little bit more, right? Do all the right things, fix the small problems as they break. Don't try to dump a ton of money into Don't try to do that because that's going to invite more problems than you ever even thought. Oh, the website crashed. Why'd the website crash? Oh, we're not used to having 2,000 visitors a day. Oh, well, our systems broke. Why'd our systems break? Well, we've never had 200 orders submitted in a day. You'd be surprised how confusing shit gets for people. And you actually need just how you have 3 offices, right? We spoke earlier. You said you have 3. If you could fit them all in one, you would, but it doesn't make sense, right? So as we scale and grow, we have to compartmentalize our things. So, and even now we're in our biggest year ever. We're going to break $1 million next month. We're going to hit 1.6 mil this year. I'm going to net $1 million. I'm a very profitable company.
Yeah.
So I'm going to net $1 million myself. And I am definitely going through some growing pains right now. And the difficulty is the layers. The company was easier to run when it was me and 2 customer service people. A lot less. Now I've got me, a customer service manager, an order processing manager, and then each of them have 2 employees. So now I have to convey my point to somebody who then has to convey my point to somebody else, right? And now we're playing the telephone game.
Yeah.
Right? So now I have to be like, okay, but do you get it? Because if you don't get it, then your employees aren't going to get it. And the same thing I said about foreign callers, all employees do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No. You should be saying no, sir. I don't mind if you don't get it. I mind if you say you got it and you don't got it.
For sure.
I'll explain this to you for 2 hours straight if I need to. So I think the scalability comes from the adding additional employees, which is also required with growing. One person can't handle the 250 orders a month we get now. So I need to grow. And it's managing how they interact with each other. I mean, I'm becoming a corporation and that's weird. To have that level of stuff going on.
To say that out loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Like there's layers now. I mean, and the reason why I say corporation different is because I'm now, before I was a CEO, but I was basically the manager. Right now I'm the CEO and I have 3 managers and then they have employees and one of those managers even has a manager. So it's like when we're at the layers, that's where I feel like we're corporatizing.
Yeah.
Because you can't, I worked at one place that was corporate and he goes, we don't like to be called corporate. I was like, well, that sounds weird. And that's probably why things are confusing around here because you're there and you're trying not to be there. And it's like, I'm the opposite. I'm trying to own it. I need it. This needs to feel like a corporation from the inside. It shouldn't feel like it to you as a customer. It should feel mom and poppy, right? All customers get my cell phone and you can all book calls with me. That shouldn't feel like a corporation, but my internal systems need to feel like a corporation.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. What's your best advice just in general, being an entrepreneur, managing a company, scaling, staying healthy, you're a healthy guy, right? Like what's just your best advice to an entrepreneur out there watching that wants to live a well-rounded life, make a lot of money, do really well, blah, blah, blah.
No, I love that. And I think it would be to, don't forget to invest in yourself. And the dumbest things are investing in yourself. I take Epsom salt baths 4 days a week. I get massages twice a week. I have a 1-wheel. I literally ride for an hour a day. I do smoke a lot of marijuana. I just want to plug that. I do, right? And I always say that's more for the people around me than it is for me. Okay? I'll be a little high strung, and I share all those things because when I go on vacation, they get disrupted. And as soon as they get disrupted, I get grumpy. And I forget how much I love the life I created for myself. And I think it's important for us to pay attention to things that really make us happy. And just one other thing is, when I first got wealthy, I bought a lot of shit. I have 3 cars. I have 3 jet skis.
Yep. I
have 3 e-bikes. I've got more properties. I got some properties that are a pain in the ass that I should liquidate. I have a lot. And to the more seasoned person, my current advice right now is I am now making decisions that only allow me to sleep better at night. I am no longer making decisions that keep me up at night. Whether that's investing or anything that could have a potential to disrupt my sleep, I am not doing anymore. And it's because I've done that. I made the money, I bought all the toys, and then I'm like, well, now there's a jet ski broken every week. Now there's a car that's not running. Oh, all my cars are custom wrapped. If I don't wash it for 3 months, I got to get the whole fucking thing rewrapped. Yeah. And it's like, before you know it, we're creating all these bandwidth sucks in our life. And at one point, we thought that having 3 cars would make us happy. Okay? Yep. But at the end of the day, it doesn't. It may make us feel accomplished. It may allow us to tell us that story that we told ourselves when we were a kid and we finally made it. And that means multiple vehicles. But at the end of the day, I'm losing sleep over it. So to the seasoned person, it would be to find your passions, always have time for yourself. I have a lot of time. I maybe have too much time for myself. I could probably spend more time in front of a computer, to be honest with you right now. And then, the next part is to find since I've bought in everything, I actually know what makes me happy now. And I'm no longer spending money on shit that doesn't make me happy.
Dude, That's a phenomenal way to end this podcast because I could not agree with you more. I mean, I've done exactly what you've done.
Yeah.
You know, in the last 4 years, I've had 3 boats, 2 jet skis, 5 cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
and I honestly hated it.
Yeah,
I really did.
right.
I hated it, you
Yeah.
know? And I sold like a lot of my stuff. Like
Yeah.
I sold my boat, I sold my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm living a simple life and I'm actually enjoying it a lot more. You know, like
Yeah.
there's not the weight of all of it, right? Like, you know, all insurance on everything, just everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's levels to the game. You know, when you look at like people like Tony Robbins or Ed Mylett or Grant Cardone or whoever, right? Like then, you know, like Ed Mylett, he's got a house in Coeur d'Alene. He's got a house here, a house there. It's like you can pay a house manager to manage that house while you're not there for 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And then when you go there, everything's good.
It's
the trees have
immaculate.
been trimmed.
Yeah.
The lawn's been mowed. You've
Yeah.
got milk in the refrigerator, right? But until you get to that level, you know, you're managing it all.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and that's a huge pain in the ass.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So dude, I agree, bro.
And that's my problem is I know I'm a great manager
Mm-hmm.
and that's a downfall.
Yeah.
So then I try to manage everything. And like now I'm never buying a property again without a property man. Ever.
Yeah.
Never, ever.
Totally.
You
dude.
know, and to your point is like, you can have 3 jet skis. Who's your jet ski manager?
Mm-hmm.
You got a guy coming over weekly to run them and clean them
Yep.
and make sure they don't have barnacles and do all. So it's like, you can't just have it, right?
No.
Everything has maintenance to it. And that's really big for me is I'm like, you know, I'm not good at maintenance. Labor of love is not my jam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it really is. I just want to, you know, live my life. And you've done it on a bigger level, you know, than I have. So, you know, I can only imagine. And yeah, and it feels good. I just sold my RV.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, $24,000 loss. Don't care.
Yeah, right there with you. on
Don't
everything
give
I
a.
sold.
I'm
Yeah.
glad it was sold.
Yeah.
I don't even care. This guy calls me up. I'm like, it's 10,000. He goes, will you take 6,500? I said, if you fucking show up right now at my house
Yeah.
with 6,500,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh my gosh,
I'll let
that's
it
so
go.
funny, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, bro. Every boat I sold, I lost my ass. You
Yeah.
know, I've owned like 27 cars. I'm 29 years old. I've owned 27 cars in my life, right? And I think 2 of them I made money.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't make much,
Right.
but like I made
But you
money.
didn't lose.
Yeah, I didn't lose. Yeah, the 25, I lost money on everyone.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And I have a list. It's in my phone of every car I've ever
Really?
owned. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, dude, yeah, 100%, man. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, dude, I got my Tesla. I'm happy.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
It's an electric
We
car.
settle
right?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
you
settle
just
in
settle
on-
in.
yeah.
And I think it's just part of, you know, the majority of the people I've interviewed, Nick, you know, they've all gone through that, right?
Right.
Like, I think, you know, and it's so funny, right? Because guys like Cody and other people used to always tell me, right? And I think there's actually a saying out there. It's like, you know, everybody says money won't make you happy, but everybody wants to find out for themselves. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's the truth, right? Like, you know, you'll sit in a room when you're on the path of, you know, growing and scaling anything, and other people that have been where you are will tell you the stories like we're telling
Same
right now.
exact thing. Right. Yeah.
And then they'll go do it anyways.
right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just human nature.
Right.
I think there's some things in life that we just have to do on our own
Yeah.
and learn on our own. Yeah. And that's the one thing I think almost every entrepreneur that I've ever talked to
Yeah.
has gone through where they've made a lot of money, they blew a lot of money, and they're like, never again.
Yeah. I learned my lesson.
Yep.
And I think with me, it was my inner child.
Mm.
I wanted to say yes to everything I was told no to.
Mm.
You know what I mean? My dad, I remember when I bought my first car, I was like, you can't do that. Well, I came home with a new car that day. Right. And so when I made money, I found myself really making inner Nick happy.
Mm.
And I like, and it's also good. We also get clarity through this, so it's not all bad. What I would say is probably release things earlier than you need to release them.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you're done with it, you're way too done with it.
Mm.
That's like the other part. It's like it's okay to buy it and sell it, but when you hold on for it for another year and then something breaks on it bigger, and then you're at like my job.
Yeah.
Right. I was already done. It took a 90-hour-a-week schedule to be like, bam, you know, well, now I'm out of here. And so that's one of my big lessons is I'm trying not to get to the pain point. Let me release things that slight discomfort rather than I hate talking about the RV or I hate that property in Vermont with all the meth heads in it. Like I don't like release it sooner. But like we said, it helps us. There's a journey that has its own journey of now we know our happiness. And now someone could say, oh, you should get that. No, actually, I shouldn't.
Yeah, 100%.
I tried it, didn't work.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I bought a boat. My dad's like the first boat I bought, you know, because yeah, you want to prove to the world, man. You know, there's that underlying, you know, the world told me I couldn't do it, so I got to do it, right?
100%.
And I remember my dad told me, said, you know, that the two best days of boat ownership are the day you buy it and the day you sell it, you know, and I couldn't agree more, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, Nick, so we're going to put all your information down below, bro. We're going to have our discount code down there, right? That'll be code Zaback.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching who wants to use any services that you provide, they'll get a discount when they use that code. What is that website where they need to go to right now?
The website is leadminingpros.com. And that coupon code will take $1 off your order, but everything you buy, we add 10% on. So if you buy $1,000 lead gen package, you get an $1,100 lead gen package. And that coupon code's reusable for life. So it's not a single one-time thing. Every time you visit, every purchase you make, use Zaback, and you'll get that 10% bonus every time.
Incredible, bro. And then what if somebody wants to follow you on social media? Are you on social media?
I'm biggest on Facebook, which I know is weird. You can tell I was raised by boomers. But I'm biggest on Facebook.
You get a lot of engagement on Facebook.
Dude, my shit is nuts.
I watch all your...
I post crazy shit, too. Yesterday was National Girlfriend's Day. And everyone was posting pictures of their girlfriend. I posted a picture of my left hand. And I was like, baby, you've never left me.
I bet you got 800 likes on that. How many likes did you get?
I think I'm at 150 with like 100 comments.
All right, you're going to get more.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But Facebook, I'm all over it. And I'll give you a quick link for everyone to join me there. And feel free to engage. My cell phone number's on the website. Cool. You guys can call me directly. You can book a call with me on the website. I don't care if you're going to buy or not. If you want to book. I'm going to be here. The worst case, I'll give you a bunch of knowledge and give you a more informed decision.
Love it, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being on the show, bro.
Thank you for
it's been a long time in the making, for sure. Yeah, and I'll put all of his information down below. So if you stay to the very end, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video. Go follow Nick. Check out Lead Mining Pros. Use code Zaback when you do, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.